So why did Aston Villa fans decide to boo Jack Grealish after all he gave to the football club? Why did Jack Grealish get booed when he came on as a second half substitute for Manchester City in their 2-1 win over Aston Villa at Villa Park? I mean, you can understand it from the supporters' point of view, first of all. You can understand, like, he is a hometown hero, he's a hometown boy. The Aston Villa fans see him as one of them. They see him as like one of the fans that was in the crowd at one point in time. And I'm sure Jack Grealish did see Aston Villa play as a fan. You think back to the days of Martin O'Neill and whatnot. I'm sure Jack Grealish was in the crowd back then because he was as Villa as there is, and you listen to him speak, you can tell he's Villa through and through. Obviously, he leaves, he goes to Manchester City, a club that, undoubtedly will win trophies as Jack Grealish is there. Like, they will win trophies probably this season, next season. And Jack Grealish will, when the time comes in about 10 years' time, possibly even more, possibly even less, he will retire with trophies under his belt, and that is because of Manchester City. And I think, like, for me, I found it quite harsh that he got booed when he came off because, look, I understand he's a hometown hero. He's, hometown legend. The fans see him as one of them, and, you look at it and think, well, if he's such a big fan of the club, he should never want to leave the club because we're all, those fans sing, we're Aston Villa till we die. I know I am. I'm sure I am, and I'm sure he probably sang that at one stage himself as a Villa fan. But context is everything, and he was at that football club from 2011 to 2021 as a footballer, and he was at the club when he was a kid as well. So he's been at that club all his life, and there have been opportunities in the past where he could have left Aston Villa whenever. When they got relegated to the Championship, he probably could have left. Some people will say he wasn't. There was kind of this narrative around Jack Grealish that he was overhyped and he was all talk, and there was a couple of things surfacing online about him and different things and whatnot. And there was a couple of clubs that were maybe a little bit like, are we getting a proper footballer here? Or are we going to get someone who's going to cause scenes or cause problems behind the scenes? As we very well know, I mean, he has had a couple of problems behind the scenes, no doubt about it. But the boy has talent. He is one of the best footballers in the Premier League on his day. Like, he can make things happen, and he's such a great player, a great asset to have in your team. And I think, in the Championship, he could have left. He could have walked away from Aston Villa. That club was in turmoil. They were getting new owners in it, or the owners were leaving the club, and there was all sorts of problems going on. There was even talk that Villa could potentially get relegated from the Championship. I mean, I'm pretty sure in their first season in the Championship they were struggling, and they were down near the bottom three in the Championship at one stage. And then, but he stuck with them. He stuck with the club through difficult times. He stuck with them through hard times. He had to endure some difficult periods. Villa get promoted up to the Premier League. He makes a big difference in his first season as Aston Villa stay in the Premier League. He could have walked away then. He could have said, look, listen, I done my part for you lads in the Championship. I had a great first season in the Premier League. Now, some would say maybe the opportunity didn't come along. Jack Grealish potentially, he maybe would have signed for like a Tottenham or something like that back then as opposed to a Manchester City. So some people would say, oh, maybe he was hanging out for the big move. But you see this a lot of the time in football and sports. Sometimes the big move just doesn't happen. Sometimes the big move just doesn't come. So Jack Grealish, he stays for another season again. Villa are absolutely brilliant this season. They, you think to that 7-2 victory over Liverpool, comfortably, nowhere near relegation. In the top half of the table for the majority of the season. And I think he's earned his stripes. He's 26 years of age. He's given absolutely everything that he could give for Aston Villa. He's very well aware that he knows that the chances of winning major trophies at Aston Villa is very, very slim. It's very, very slim. And, there aren't too many players down the years that have sacrificed winning trophies for the love of their hometown club. It just doesn't happen that often. Alan Shearer with Newcastle is one that sticks out, but even at that, he had his crowning moment at Blackburn. He won a trophy there. Steven Gerrard didn't leave Liverpool, but again, he had his crowning moment, and he was always going to be thereabouts with some trophies and whatnot, with a size of Liverpool Football Club. I mean, Liverpool Football Club is always, aspiring to win trophies, even in the years where they looked a million miles away from doing so. With Aston Villa, maybe a crazy circumstance like the Leicester City story, or, maybe they win an FA Cup or they get to a Carabao Cup final, but there's no guarantee of success of trophies there. And I know Villa are trying to build towards European football now under Steven Gerrard, but, I do think ultimately for Jack Grealish, winning trophies at that football club it's not a long term. Maybe it is a long term ambition, but it's not a guaranteed thing that's going to happen when you look at some of the other clubs that are in front of Aston Villa and the money and resources that they do have. So I think, he was within his right to leave Manchester City. He really, really was. And he even does an interview leading up to the game and he says, I've always loved the club. I'll always love the club. And, you could easily see a circumstance in when Aston Grealish, when Jack Grealish is 33, 34, coming to the swan song of his career, and he goes back to Aston Villa. A bit like when Wayne Rooney went back to Everton. I know not all Everton fans were happy with that, and I'm sure there'd be some Aston Villa fans that would probably resist him going back to Aston Villa as well. But I think you have to look at the big picture, and I think he's a club legend, he's a club hero, and I think him going back there would be brilliant at some capacity further down the line. And he goes to Manchester City, he wins a couple of trophies, and he does great by his hometown, and he shows that it is possible to be a top class footballer coming through the ranks at Aston Villa, and also as well, let's not forget 100 million in the bank. Like 100 million. 100 million is a lot of money, and when you look at Jack Grealish so far for Manchester City, a long way to go yet, but I think Aston Villa might have gotten the better deal there as well. So 100 million, and you can invest that into the club. You can invest that into resources in the club, training facilities. I mean, Aston Villa have plenty of money already with their owners, but they can. There's investment opportunities there to bring in more players and reinvest in the squad, and I suppose stabilize yourselves as a top 10 Premier League club. So a bit harsh on Jack Grealish being booed. Was it one of them things where it's in the moment and the fans boo Jack Grealish in the moment because they don't want him to have a good game? They're afraid maybe he has a good game, and Aston Villa were trying to get back into that game and trying to turn the game around. Maybe when the final whistle blows, Jack Grealish gets a round of applause from the Villa fans. I'm not sure, but yeah, a little bit of a strange one in some respects. But I think for Aston Villa fans in general, from what I've seen from reading online, is that the general consensus is that there is still a lot of love there for Jack Grealish, and I'm so sure at some point he'll come back to Villa in some capacity, and I'm sure maybe, hopefully next time around anyways, he gets a good reception, because I think for what he done for that football club, he doesn't owe anything to anyone, in my opinion.